time to talk about the fiercely competitive mobile telecommunications market in South Africa, which, let's face it, never fails to deliver attention-grabbing headlines and bold strategies and very innovative tactics, and I think for very good reason. It's a booming multi-billion rand industry, and the MVNO market is showing a massive surge off the back of demand for data, and with thanks to the foundations laid by some very pioneering brands like Mr. Price Mobile and Me and You Mobile as well. In a well-regulated but heavily stitched up mobile telcos market, MVNX emerged as something of a trailblazer over a decade ago. And to find out more about this and the journey, I'm joined now by Valde Ferradaz, who's a CEO of MVNX. Valde, welcome to Business Talk.
Thank you very much, Michael. Nice to be here.
Now, it's always, when we're close to industries, we can forget how much jargon there is and how often we lose people in the jargon. So let's begin with the basics. For viewers who don't know, what exactly is an MVNO?
So the acronym comes from mobile network operators. That's the big operators like the Vodacoms and the MTNs. And the mobile virtual network operator, the V that they put between in the acronym there, really sums it up. So these were organizations in the early days that didn't own the infrastructure, that were roaming on someone else's infrastructure, but they were competing and had a license to provide mobile services in the telecoms, the traditional telecom space. I suppose in today's times that the more traditional MVNO is more like Cell C, where a mobile network operator in the early days, but now you could almost define them as a fully fledged MVNO because they don't own the network anymore. Yes, they have spectrum and they have a lot of technology, but they do not own the network. It's roaming in either on MTN in the majority and some of it in Vodacom. And I think that's the way the world's going in terms of shared infrastructure. So that's the acronym.
Mobile virtual network operator. Often we talk about TLAs, too many three-letter acronyms in the world, but there's another one, OTT, over-the-top operators. Are they pretty much the same thing when we talk about OTTs and MVNOs, or is there a distinction?
No, they're kind of different because the digitization and software as a service, has to sit somewhere on a bearer service on the internet, and I think they are quite different in the sense that the anyone on any network, over the top services can compete in that spectrum, in that space, as long as they access a mobile device. Whether mobile virtual network operators or service providers of connectivity or enabling more that connectivity, and the tariffs and the pipe and the bits and bytes and the minutes, where over the top services are more of a digital spectrum, more of a digital ecosystem, so they've just evolved, WhatsApp was the early adopters over the top services and things like Twitter and so on. But now you're starting to see everything being, app-driven, application-driven on top of some sort of carrier service, whatever that may be, 5G, 6G going forward in the future. So it's not really the traditional switch kind of environment.
How would an organization that's not traditionally in the tech industry benefit from launching an MVNO?
Well, I think it's kind of a broad question, but MVNOs are kind of fashionable nowadays and in demand because I think brands understand the value of connectivity. So connectivity as a commodity is extremely valuable. And it's valuable for business and for the consumer. And if you look at for consumer, it's obvious why it's valuable. And you've got access to education, access to financial services. You can communicate with your loved ones. You can get help, etc., etc. So I think digitizing the economy and the nation is very important. The connectivity plays a very, very important role. So that's why legislation and regulators driving that agenda. And I don't think well enough, but it's been driven in any case. And then if you look at the brands, brands are understanding that for them to digitize the relationship and really have a really good engagement with their customer base, they need to go digital. You talked about earlier about the over-the-top services. Now they've got apps. They want to offer value. They want to reward their customers. They want to connect with their customers. And the best way to connect with your customers is through a device that they're always on, kind of always engaging. So I think the technology of smartphones, along with connectivity and affordable data and data being a very valuable commodity, is driving that need. So customers, you look at Smart Shopper through Pick and Pay, you look at Standard Bank offer free data and mobile services to the value of your banking services. The world is going where we're saying, well, I need maximum value out of my wallet and I need the inconvenience. So brands are realizing that for them to retain their spend and to provide customers more value, more convenience at their destination where they're already going to, they have to offer a wider range of services. And I think they would be negligent to a degree if they didn't digitize the customer base and the customer engagement via connectivity, via mobile or telecoms. I think that's the thing. And use that as a reward. So you can reward your customer for spend, you get more data, or more data, you get more spend. And I think mobile and airtime is also a very good currency. And in some markets, people are not trading in cash, they're trading in other currencies like loyalty points or airtime, so you could exchange airtime that you've earned through spend in a group of companies to purchase something else. So if you look at that whole converged billing and converged services where customers expect to get the utilities, expect to bank, expect to buy the connectivity and loan their money or transfer money or with a brand that they trust, is more and more common these days. So it's no longer just an operator play. It's now a consumer and a world of digitization play. And you can see how MVNOs help digitize the economy. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, it certainly does. It's almost as if you're helping keep those customers that are so precious and valuable to your business in that ecosystem. And what better way of doing it than by having the ability to incentivize with data or minutes? And I think as any parent with children will know, you run out of power for a while, but as long as there's a backup UPS on the Wi-Fi router, the kids are happy and they don't really notice. Now, I think many organizations might be concerned about the technological undertaking of actually launching an MVNO. How does MVNX make this a non-issue?
It's a good question. Years back, the technology wasn't available. Companies like ours, and particularly MVNX, we've invested, hundreds of millions in building a platform that can take away all that pain and do all that heavy lifting with a mobile operator. So what we do is it's an hygiene factor really in MVNOs today for us, in the sense that we are integrated to multiple networks. So we're not network agnostic. We will connect to the operator of your choice. And all you need to do as a customer really is worry about servicing your customer and building the proposition that you want to differentiate within the market, providing that service, because some MVNOs want to do it because they want to enrich the experience of their customers. Other MVNOs want it as a profitable sector in their camp, where it's selling airtime and making money on airtime. But most of the MVNOs are looking for something that they can add value to their customer base by connecting them and working closer with them. And, our technology platform is so tested by now. If you look at our history over 10 years, we've enabled Standard Bank South Africa, Mr. Price Mobile, and our own brands like Me and You and You Connect, the Fashini Group, Pick and Pay, Box and others, So we've done it many times. So we've got a very good relationship and a very good integration already with the mobile operators. So our customers do not need to talk to the operators at all unless they want to do some sort of deal around marketing support and going to market, But other than that, on the platform side, we have a full managed service, and we maybe we can get back into that discussion later. But that is the easy part of enabling an MVNO. That the technology, that's what we do. You come to us, you say, I'd like to integrate to this operator or that operator. We look at your architecture, we evaluate, we come up with a solution architecture that fits your bill, because it can be very integrated to the point of sell rewards engines, or it can be very light. For example, you might just want to do a prepaid offering with a white label SIM. You might want to do a fully integrated rewards-based offering that competes, in a financial services game. So it really is very dependent on what the customer is trying to do. And that's where MVNOs struggle to make a decision on whether they want to become an MVNO or not, or companies. They come to us because they say, should I become an MVNO? What does it mean? How complicated
What is the value?
What's the value? And I think that consultancy, and it's part of our approach. We don't charge for it. It's mainly an enabling educational part of our business, because if you don't educate in the value and where you can compete and do the business modeling and the feasibility and the assumptions around which sectors you're going to serve and why you're trying to do it, what's the real reason why you need to, it should become an MVNO. If you don't do that, then you could walk straight into the lion's den, which is competing with the mobile operators on price.
Yeah. Yeah, well, exactly. And I guess you must get this question quite a lot, Valde, when, you're sitting down with someone who's maybe thinking about using this, and they'd say, why would a South African customer choose to use an MVNO rather than going straight through to a mobile operator? Does this come back to, the value conversation? Are you using this to drive incentives? How do you respond to that question around why would a South African customer choose to use an MVNO rather than just going straight through the mobile operators?
It's a great question, and it's not the same answer for all sectors of our market, and particularly affordability. So first of all, I think the network parity is more or less the same, Michael. It's not much difference between the networks these days. We know this, we can see this. So particularly as the operators are sharing infrastructure, and they also from load shedding, and there's regulation and network sharing, the network parity is more or less the same. Gone are the days where people are rolling out networks, and if you want Vodacom, you were getting a much better network than you were getting on MTN, or vice versa. So you can't really see the difference between the network performance these days. It's acceptable, and it's kind of more or less the same. What is it? What customers are looking for? They're looking for value. They're looking for free data, connectivity at an affordable level, and that varies whether someone who's unemployed wants to access education because you can't afford education. You have to go and get in the taxi to go buy your airtime. You can see where would you buy your airtime from. What would be convenient from you. You can see the reach that the market needs to have in connectivity, and affordability, and it drives a lot of that behavior rather than our typical, sort of affordable sectors. We can go and buy an iPhone, we can buy a smartphone. And I think we've been trained traditionally to get into contracts, and then you're sitting with a service provider that you've always bought a contract with, and now you're stuck with a contract for 24 months. It services all your needs. But the majority of the population in the poor sectors, and that the affordability is something to be considered, and is they do not really worry about that. They worry about convenience. They say, am I getting connectivity? Can I afford it? Can I speak longer? Can I surf longer? Can I access this? And how easily is it for me to recharge, so I don't have to get in the taxi to recharge? I need to be able to recharge right there and then, where I do most of my shopping, like in a Boxer store somewhere in the middle of a rural area. So this whole the value proposition, if I'm getting rewarded and I'm already spending money with a brand like Mr. Price, and every time I was spending Mr. Price, I got an account, and they trust me, and they give me airtime in advance, so I can stay communicated. I can buy now, pay later. Because I spent 500 Rand a day doing my groceries, I'm actually getting 500 MBs of data, which gives me my unlimited WhatsApp for the month. I'm all in there, and I'm going to use more than one SIM to do what I need to do, which is to communicate with the world. So that consumerism, that drive for need for data and connectivity to the world, particularly amongst the majority of the population, which are kind of in the unemployment segment or lowest income segment of the market, etc. We always look at it from when we are servicing the market, those are the sectors that need to be enabled, because it's not fully penetrated, although everybody's got a handset. Yeah. But they can't afford data. And I think the MVNOs and service providers are bringing that value and that accessibility to free data through an existing spend. Then imagine you go to Spar and you buy bread and you get data. Those are the kind of things that are emerging in the markets.
Yeah, and that really incentivizes that behavior. Well, so what can government do? Because I would imagine initially there was quite a lot of pushback between the network operators and the concept of an MVNO as service providers here, and them being separate, and the network operators saying, yeah, but we spent all this money on the infrastructure, but now the MVNOs are here. What more can government do to enable MVNOs to offer these kind of innovative value plays, which really are about enabling the base of the pyramid through financial inclusion, through access to data? What more would you like to see government do in this space?
Well, they're not doing a lot. That's the other than regulating it and opening up the market for more competition, they're not doing much. And I'll try to give you a very short sort of summary of where the pain points are and the barriers are and what they should be doing. But essentially, government is awarded spectrum, to try and open up the market through the big operators having to fulfill a quota of mobile virtual network operators. For example, in some of the Arab states, the regulator there will say you have 2 mobile operators that are allowed to build a network, and you have 2 licenses, and you have 5, for example, or 4 MVNO licenses. And these guys can compete as fully fledged service providers, so that you're not only empowering the mobile network operators to control the market. So if you look at South Africa, it's an interesting model, because in the launch of mobile in 1994 in our country, you had about 12 service providers on different networks competing against the market, offering customers choice. And we went through a cycle where the mobile operators understood that they were just becoming a bit of a pipe and a bit of a carrier. So they acquire the customers, they control the customer base. So they control the market. And now what you're starting to see with service providers, which is really the modern MVNO, coming back to life with companies like ours, we enable them because we got the technology, is the reopening of the market with multiple brands actually offering connectivity to the public. So it's almost like a full, if it makes sense, turnaround of the service provider model coming back to life, where the commodity and the access to the market is no longer controlled by the mobile operators, who, by the way, have done an excellent job, because there's still private sector, no government sector is involved in it. It's one of the sectors that has not been penetrated by government with over regulation and so forth. So it performs very well. Yeah, it does quite well. Now, government doesn't do things like social services, education programs, digitizing the police force, digitizing the emergency services, the hospitals, the nurses, the schools. But they got spectrum for that, because government has got a certain amount of spectrum that they could work with multiple sectors of the market to digitize these government state-owned enterprises and so forth.
Could you imagine? But they don't. I mean, could you imagine if we could roll out digital classrooms to some of the poorest, most rural communities and schools, and how transformative that would be in terms of education, access to medical diagnostics. And we saw telemedicine through COVID. All of these things in terms of e-government could be really transformative. And sometimes I think we need to really raise our ambition. What is the role here that you as an MVNX play in helping organizations launch an MVNO? What is the process that one has to undertake?
So our preferred approach with our clients is to try and understand why are they considering becoming an MVNO? Why do they want to offer connectivity? And there's different reasons. Some companies will come to us because they are very traditional, just offering broadband. Now they need to offer mobile. Now they need to offer other services. And otherwise, you're stuck with the broadband connection to the home, but you're not offering security. You're not offering education. You're not offering financial services. And I think any business who is very singular in their service to the client is going to be overtaken by customers who are offering total value or more value, particularly on the e-commerce platforms. You can go today, you can get an eSIM from anywhere, decide what package you're going to get, and you can buy your services from a service provider that offers you, like a bank, like Capitec Bank or like Standard Bank, that offers you quite a lot of services. So I think you have that need, but then you have a need of MVNOs who are saying, well, we are not we are not connecting, and I go back to digitizing the economy. This is a really, really important fact. I think it's overspoken and kind of a buzzword, but if you think of the fundamentals we spoke about earlier, about digitizing the workforce, digitizing the communities and the social grants and the people who can't afford data, and giving them access to free education and kind of thing, there's that kind of thing. The brands wanting to do that. There's more and more brands in government sectors coming to us as well saying, can you help us? And the way we help them is to say, let's have a look at what you're trying to do and who you're going after and how you're going to connect your customers and what are your channels and what are your reach? Because if you haven't got reach and you haven't got an engagement with customers, it's very difficult to penetrate the market because the market is already 150, 160% penetrated. So you're going to end up selling data and voice, and anyone can do that. That you can go and get a SIM from anywhere in the market. So what exactly is your brand doing that is going to use the commodity and reward customers maybe free data or connectivity on their spend that's going to differentiate and enhance their basket spend and value with you? And in return, you're going to get a much better relationship with your client. You're going to continue earning their trust. You're going to communicate with them in a digital forum. They're going to interact with you. They're going to, real-time dynamic engagement with your customers. That's kind of where most brands want to go. Diversification, but they can't do that, right? Because they haven't got a system that does one bill, that can bill the customer because they have utilities or they have telco or they have rewards or they integrated the point of sale, so we know what they spend, and that goes into a basket or goes into a wallet. That's what we do. So we bring all of that powerful technology, which for us is kind of an hygiene factor if you want to play in our space, as a platform as a service, and we enable you to do that. But that stage we only get to, Michael, if we will be very honest with our clients in the sense of, think about why you're doing this. Think about do a proper SWOT analysis on this, and let's do a proper business case, because you're not going to get millions of customers because the market's penetrated. So what are you trying to achieve here? Are you trying to enrich the value? Are you trying to defend your customer base? Are you trying to empower the communities? Or how much money do you want to make from it? Yeah, so that's kind of the consultancy, the feasibility, the business case to get approved, because like the big retailers and the big banks need to go through a capex budget, because often they have more spend in aligning their system to digitize their customers than they spend with us, because us is a off the shelf kind of plug and play. We take it, we plug you in, and if you want a very simple solution, prepaid, you can have one in 30 days. You can have one in a day if you take a white label similar that exists, with your own USSD menus, so that's what we do all the time. So, and often what we do is we get quite deep we can get in quite deep with that other brand to decide if we integrate to the point of sale, if we take control over their, so some people want to bring their own CRM, use their own CRM, and want us to integrate the charging and the rating and the connection engine to them. Some people want to give us a full managed service and say, we don't know what we're doing in telco, we manage it for you. And what's what we do? So we will bill your customers, collect the cash, service them, retain them, acquire your customers through our other channels and assets we have in group. So I think that's one of the reasons why I think we've been successful, is that we don't allow our customers to fail,
And I can just see, I can see the value just to Valde in this and I'm going to use the example of media here. And I bank with FNB, and you mentioned Standard Bank and Capitec, and I think the banking value case is clear because you've got your customer already, but by offering this, you're kind of retaining them and adding value. And I think the media is battling at the moment in terms of shifting consumers to digital. Can they afford, the data to be able to access their platforms, but they want to keep their audience. And I just think here, one of the most successful podcasts in the market, funnily enough, was a football podcast around the PSL. And the example shared was that, well, we made it easy because we offered the podcast with free data so that it would be easily downloadable. And then we sold sponsorship on the back of that. And in that way, you overcame key barriers, but you also, because you're adding this as a value add as the media house, kept your reader, kept your audience member, and kept that valuable eyeball for advertisers or sponsors who are worried about the declining numbers in print. So, when you've defined that value proposition, I think it can be a hugely powerful behavioral driver and value add in continuing to delight and keep and retain that customer, to your earlier point. Just lastly, because we are running out of time, how can businesses get in contact with you about launching their MVNO to sit down and have this one-on-one consultative session with you?
They can access it on our website, which is mvnxmobile.co.za, or they could email me on valde.ferradaz@ignitiongroup.co.za.
Fantastic. Well, Valde, thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's been a really interesting tour through the world of MVNOs here on Business Tech. That's all for this episode. Keep liking and sharing, and we'll keep bringing you the best in the business here on BusinessTech.co.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Okay, thank you.